Welcome to Gorilla Sports Off Court, a post-game live reaction following the Bucks taking on the Denver Nuggets at home. My name is Liv Moods. I'm your host for tonight, and this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments. So head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome in, everybody, to another post-game live reaction show. I am your host for tonight, Liv Moods, and maybe joined by some special guests as well tonight. We'll keep you up to date on all things Denver Nuggets as we talk through this game. The Nuggets beat the Bucks by 10 tonight, 127-117, and have to say this was in very true Denver fashion, where there was some highs in this game, some lows in this game. I think they started off the game really well in the first quarter. Second quarter, not great, actually. I think they were only up by 3 at halftime. Third quarter, again, not a great quarter for them. And then, of course, fourth quarter, they had to find a way to get back in this game. This was a Bucks team that was without Giannis and Damian Lillard, so I would expect a bit of a bigger lead here in most of the game. I think it was late in the third quarter that the Bucks got ahead for the first time in this game, which shows you something that is very on trend and on pattern with this Denver Nuggets team, which is we watch them put their foot on the gas, take their foot off the gas. So in this game, and I know we've kind of entertained this idea a few times throughout this season, that some of what we're seeing with the stop and go, the full throttle, and then the backing away is strategic for the health of the bodies of this Nuggets team. They have been riddled with injuries all season long. Those of you that have paid attention to the Denver Nuggets all season know that. It has been a very injury-riddled season for these Denver Nuggets. This game, in my opinion, was a perfect example of the fact that this probably is a strategy by the Denver Nuggets. They're currently sitting, I believe, in the third seed right now. And so when you look at this Western Conference and you look at kind of the competition that is to come in the Western Conference for this Denver Nuggets team potentially, every seed is scary. Every seed in the Western Conference is threatening. The 1 seed is equally as threatening to me as the 6 seed. I know you're sitting there thinking, well, it's OKC. They've been on top of the Western Conference the entire season, but we know that in so many ways, when the playoffs begin, it is kind of a fresh start for all of these teams. This Denver Nuggets team last year had a lot of issues with being exhausted and showing up in the playoffs just looking very lethargic, very uninterested. And I think so much of that was the fact that they were tired. It is no excuse, of course, because everybody at that stage of the season is tired. But that was something that I felt like the Nuggets really, really struggled with last year. So what we're seeing with them, even in games like this, they know they don't have Dame. They know they don't have Giannis to go up against. So we're watching them kind of coast in some quarters and then really, really put their foot on the gas in others. In my opinion, first and fourth are where they kind of had their sweet spots tonight. You saw Michael Porter Jr. getting hot early. Then you saw Nikola Jokic start to find his rhythm a little bit. He is coming back from injury. I believe ahead of this game, it had been 11 days, not games, 11 days since we had watched Nikola Jokic play basketball. And if you've been a longtime Denver Nuggets fan and a Nikola Jokic fan, you know we are very lucky and blessed to have Nikola Jokic available as often as we do. It is very rare that you see him out for long periods of time, but we know he's been dealing. First it was elbow, then it was ankle. He's been banged up this season, and I think he's been playing through a lot of injuries that he maybe didn't talk about. So the Nuggets are sitting in a pretty good spot right now. You've got OKC at 1. I believe the Rockets are still the 2 seed right now in the Western Conference. And then you've got the Nuggets at 3. The rest is really up for grabs outside of the 1 seed. I mean, every week we've seen this Western Conference, the standings in the Western Conference look a little bit different every single night. So it's good. Every win matters for this Nuggets team if they do value seeding. But at the end of the day, I'm going to stand true on the fact that I don't think seeding matters as much this year as it has in years past. I do think that every team in the Western Conference poses a threat. And so every team going into the Western Conference playoffs needs to have that understanding that no matter who you face, it's going to be tough. So it's important that this Nuggets team at least stays out of play-in world, and it's crazy to even say that because it seems like, it's not even possible. It is. The Western Conference is that tight. The race is that tight. That every win does matter, but I also can understand this Nuggets team kind of backing up a little bit and prioritizing their bodies. Let's go ahead and get some of these comments up on the screen here. I don't understand how fans get mad when other teams' star players don't show. I'll take an easy win any day. Yeah, I don't think there's any frustration there at all on my end. Also, it would be quite hypocritical of me to be upset with comments that were made by another reporter about Jokic and Jamal not playing in a game against the Warriors and then have that same frustration towards Dame and Giannis. Dame obviously out. If you guys did not know, he's got that thrombosis or the same thing that Victor Wembanyama is dealing with. Dame has in his calf, and that is something that you don't want to tread lightly on. It's very, very serious. So I'm wishing Dame all the best, and hopefully he's getting back in good health. And Giannis has been battling some injuries. I think any of these big players that play really tough and play really hard and play a lot of minutes, it is pretty normal and or expected at this time in the season that their bodies are banged up. So hoping that team can get healthy. The Eastern Conference is another beast of its own, where you've got like two teams at the top that are really, truly threatening, and then the rest is kind of up for grabs. You've got teams like the Knicks, you've got the Bucks that could make some noise. I just think at this point in the season, whether it's injuries or what have you, I think we know the two teams in the Eastern Conference that have the best chance at winning the East and playing in the finals. As for the Western Conference, I don't think there is one person on this planet that can confidently say with their chest, this team will be playing in the finals. I know a lot of people want to say that it's OKC. I'm not there yet. I'm really not there yet. I love OKC. I think they're great. They're fun to watch. They're very, very exciting to watch. But I'm really not sold on OKC winning the West. I'm just not. If you guys don't know, I did sprinkle on the Golden State Warriors, I would say like a month ago now, just because I know what Steph Curry can be in a playoff position. I know what Jimmy Butler can also be. Obviously, Jimmy Butler playing his ex the other night did not go as planned, and I think he was probably pretty frustrated by that. But we know the talent the Golden State Warriors possess. We know that the Lakers are another team that can be very, very threatening. The Rockets on a heater. OKC, of course. The Nuggets, when they play full throttle basketball for 4 quarters, in my opinion, are truly a contender. So the West is up for grabs in so many ways. Jokic, 30 triple doubles. He should win MVP. At this point, you guys, I can be as completely transparent as possible. I don't think Jokic is going to win MVP because I do think they are trying their very best to push SGA in our faces, down our throats, and trying their best to kind of create this narrative that he has run away with the MVP award this season. They were saying that months ago, which in my opinion is hilarious when you look at the numbers and the statistics that you just can't make up. It's right there. The proof is in the pudding. And Jokic has proved all season long that he is playing at an MVP level. Even out for 11 days with injury, he still is coming back like he never left and continuing to show why he is the MVP. Do I think Nikola Jokic is the rightful winner of MVP this season? Yes, I do. I think this is going to be one of those years we look back on when we look at the numbers between SGA and Jokic and we all sit there and go, why didn't Jokic win MVP? I'm going to have to be explaining that to my kids someday. Mom, if his numbers were better than his numbers, why did he win MVP and he didn't? I don't know, son. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's a mystery to me. So I do think that's probably the year that we're going to be having here with the MVP award. But the beauty of it all is that Jokic doesn't care. Jokic does not care. I think he truly values winning championships, winning games with his team. And at the end of the day, if not winning a regular season MVP, because the last time that happened, they won a championship. If not winning the regular season MVP means that he wins the finals MVP, by all means, I don't care. So yes, is he the MVP? Of course he is. Of course he is. It's Nikola Jokic. He's the best basketball player in the world. Did you see that pass? That might have been the assist of the year. Not might have been. It was the assist of the year to Aaron Gordon. So Jokic, out for quite a few games here, comes back like he never left, proving why he is the MVP. Yes, but I do think they're going to try to make it as impossible as possible. We know that the MVP award is a popularity award, and I do think SGA is kind of on the up and coming with a young team. They're playing really well. He has been playing at a very high level over the last few seasons. And so, I don't know. Part of me thinks that there is some back end business stuff when it comes to the MVP award in terms of, let's keep it fresh, let's keep it exciting, let's get somebody else in there so that we can keep it fun and competitive. But in my opinion, don't punish Nikola Jokic because you want somebody else to be great. SGA is great. No one's denying that, but he's not as great as Nikola Jokic. I'm just going to say that, and I'm going to say that with my chest. So there you go. Let the MVP go. I only brought it up because somebody asked about it. Thank you so much. You must have just joined the show. Appreciate you for being here. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. Where do you think we finish, Liv, in all honesty? It does feel like the 3 seed is kind of like the happy medium for this Nuggets team. I think they could fight and push for the 2 seed, and I hope that they do. That being said, we know how this Nuggets team is, and they've got some pretty tough games on the horizon. They're going to be facing the Grizzlies this coming month. It's almost April. It's not April just yet. Sorry about that. I had to look. I've got their schedule right in front of me. They're facing the Timberwolves again at home this time, actually. You've got the Warriors, you've got the Kings, you've got the Grizzlies, you've got the Rockets. The Rockets are the final game of the season. And honestly, as much as I hated last year, the San Antonio Spurs game meaning way more than it should, we're going to be in that same position again. It could be that the Houston Rockets and the Denver Nuggets in their final game of the regular season are fighting for the 2 seed. That could be the situation that we've got on the horizon. I think that's what it's going to look like. So depending on how tight this race stays, I would imagine that the Nuggets now see, every time I say that I think the Nuggets should win this game, I hate saying it. I don't want to say it because I don't like saying that. Every time I do say that, something goes wrong. But they should get a win against the Utah Jazz this Friday. That should be a win. The Timberwolves at home, God, I don't know. I actually would rather meet up with any team in the playoffs outside of the Timberwolves. I don't like playing those guys. The Spurs, we know, have been riddled with injuries this season. That should be a win for them. We know that they can compete against the Golden State Warriors, which is the game following that one. They were without Nikola Jokic when they took down the Golden State Warriors. Last week? That being said, it also forced a lot of team members around Nikola Jokic to play better, faster, stronger basketball. And I do think that when Nikola Jokic is back, we kind of back away from that. I don't want to see that happen. The Pacers, again, one of those games where you would like to assume that they can get a win against the Pacers, who are the 4th in the Eastern Conference. And we know the East and the West are just very different. They're very different. I'm not downplaying that there's talent in the Eastern Conference, but it's just 2 different stratospheres to me. The West is significantly more competitive and, in my opinion, talented, maybe just healthy. So there is more talent right now in the Western Conference. So should be a win against the Pacers. You've got the Kings. Again, all of these are should be wins. Now, the Grizzlies on the 11th of April, and then the Rockets on the 13th of April. That's the tough situation there. That's where you kind of go, ooh, I don't know. What are we going to get out of this team when you've got a healthy John Morant and Nikola Jokic is back? Yes, but the Grizzlies are a hot team. They really are. They're not to be underestimated. They're just behind the Denver Nuggets right now. And then I believe it's the Lakers after them. But the Lakers and the Grizzlies are pretty interchangeable depending on how their next few games go. So all of it's up in the air, and you would like to assume that this Nuggets team is capable of winning out the rest of their season, but a lot of the games that they've lost this season should not have been losses in the first place. So it's hard to say. I do think they'll end up being the 3 seed, though. That's kind of where I feel like it's that happy medium. We know that they're capable of being the 2 seed. We know that they're also capable of falling lower than that. The 3 seed would be ideal, in my opinion. Okay, let's get some more of these comments out here. Want to give a couple shout outs. I got to say it, you guys, and I don't really think this is a hot take. I really don't. If I could name outside of Nikola Jokic, like a captain of the team this year, it would be Christian Braun. It really would be. The way that he plays, the hustle that he plays with. I have just enjoyed watching him not only develop and grow as a player, but also be so important and crucial to this Denver Nuggets team. When we started this season, We weren't sure if it was him or Julian Strother in the starting lineup. We weren't sure what CB starting minutes would look like. And he has been, in my opinion, the most consistent player that we've got in terms of the effort that he brings night in, night out. I really, really have nothing but respect and praise for Christian Braun. He just has that dog mentality, and I talk about it all the time. When you've won a championship on every level, high school, college, NBA, you do have to have that dog in you. Naturally, you have to have that dog in you to be a winner in every phase of your life as a basketball player. And he's got that. He really does. And that's just the best way I can explain it, is that he has that dog in him. And it's dog that can't really be taught. You either have it or you don't, and he has it. He possesses that. So Christian Braun, to me, is phenomenal. We'll go through the stat lines a little bit for tonight. Of course, we know having Nikola Jokic back does make a huge difference, and having a healthy Aaron Gordon as well does make a huge difference. His production wasn't super great tonight, but he also was in early foul trouble, which was very frustrating to watch. But nonetheless, Michael Porter Jr., like I said, started off really hot in this game, 23, 10, and 4. This, to me, this stat line by Michael Porter Jr., sue me, should actually be regular. That this is what we should see from MPJ every night. Okay? I don't expect 23 points and 10 rebounds every night, but I do expect that level of production by him. If you're not going to make your threes, if your threes aren't going to fall, he was 6 of 8 tonight from the three-point line. We know that doesn't happen often, and I don't expect it to happen often. However, if you're not going to be an offensive machine for this Denver Nuggets team, so help me God, at least you're getting rebounds. And that's what we saw from him tonight. This stat line, while I'm giving it praise, to be honest, this is what I expect from Michael Porter Jr. With his size and his talent, and the role that the Nuggets need him for, that is how he should be playing every single night. So we need that more consistently. Want to give a shout out to him. That is the version that we need more consistently from MPJ. Nikola Jokic back from an injury, 39, 10, and 10. Triple doubles seem to be pretty easy for this man. But we're not going to skim past the fact that it was a 39-point triple double. That is insane. And of course, it happens pretty regularly that he has such high scoring triple doubles that we no longer talk about it with a tone of voice that's like, whoa, because you just kind of expect that from Nikola Jokic. And I expect that from Nuggets fans. I'm sorry. I expect that from NBA fans, but Nuggets fans, we know better. We know how special this is. We know how special it is to watch Nikola Jokic play. And so, yeah, this is just, again, another great, great, great example of why Nikola Jokic is the MVP. Jamal Murray, 17, 4, and 6. Loved that from him tonight. This was one of those games where when you've got MPJ getting hot the way that he was early, you don't need Jamal to be lighting it up. He was 1 of 7 from the three-point line. Didn't love that because, of course, his three-point shooting we know can be very clutch, especially as we enter playoff world. CB, 19, 10, and 6. I mean, chef's kiss. I just talked about CB. Nothing but love for him. Peyton Watson, 12 off the bench, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks. Peyton Watson's defensive upside in that second unit is massive, and I love watching him play. Russ, 6-2-6, a complete stat line, and way less turnovers, which I appreciate. The only thing with Russell Westbrook right now that has me holding my breath is the amount of threes that he's taking. But when they do fall, we know how clutch they can be. So I'm not mad at it right this moment. Really quickly, we are going to toss to Coach Malone's post-game presser, just a little clip of it, and hear what he's got to say about this win. We know there was some frustration, of course, following some of these last few games that they've played in. I think there were a lot of things that we liked about tonight, a lot of things we didn't like about tonight, but of course, I think the opinion that matters the most is Coach Malone and this Nuggets team. So let's check out what Coach Malone has to say about the Denver Nuggets win over the Milwaukee Bucks.
Down to the wire game that you predicted earlier, but what did you kind of like in terms of the team's response a couple times down the stretch when it got those 3 points?
Yeah, they cut it to 3. I forget exactly what was on the clock. It seemed like every time we put a good stretch together, they just chip away, make a big shot, make a big 3. We'd have a breakdown here or there. And then I loved our response. I think we went on a 9-0 run. Tremendous offensive execution. We took our time. We were poised. We got what we wanted. To have 36 assists, only 10 turnovers is a great number. And to get 20 on transition to their 5, another great number. But Yeah, I liked our defense in the fourth quarter was by far our best defensive quarter, only 25 points. The second quarter obviously was 37 with a depleted roster. They had a lot of shooting out there, but sometimes you just got to stay with it. And I think tonight was one of those games where you're working Nicola back in, who was outstanding, 39, 10, and 10. He broke his own record for most triple-doubles in a season, which is incredible. I thought CB was outstanding, 19, 10, and 6. Jamal, 6 assists, no turnovers. So a good win. Peyton Watson played really well. Aaron never got into a rhythm with the foul trouble, but now we just got to turn the page and try to get ready for Utah and protect our home court.
It felt like there was a play you guys got that 5, I think, in the third, and Christian Brown just stole a rebound. I think Lopez ripped it off and went and laid it up. And after that, that's when that just kicked everything into gear, it seemed like for you guys.
Yeah, and that's who CB is, right? I mean, he's a heart and hustle type of a guy, and just is relentless in his approach. I mean, tonight he played 38 minutes and impacted the game across on every stat. He was impacting the game in a positive way. So loved his energy and effort, and to come up with big baskets like that. He had a big one too. I think he got a tip dunk one time on a miss. So CB was great, and I think maybe that was our 21st time the whole year where we started that lineup, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. We have 8 games to go. A lot of things we can clean up, we can improve upon, but it was good to get a win after a tough loss against Chicago.
I absolutely loved Coach Malone talking about how few times we've seen this starting lineup together, which is really indicative of how few times we've seen this Nuggets team in full health. I mean, truly, I don't think there's a lot of people outside of Nuggets fans that understand how injury riddled this team has been. That being said, to Coach Malone's point, there's 8 games left in the season, and this is a really great opportunity to build some continuity in the starting 5 that you hope to see in the playoffs, right? And of course, you may have to draw back from time to time to keep their bodies healthy ahead of the playoffs. But at this point, we know what this Nuggets team can be. When they are playing their best basketball, we know how great they can be. Their best offensive quarter in this game tonight was their first quarter, and their best defensive quarter in this game tonight was the fourth quarter. They're starting strong, they're finishing strong. That's all good and great, but sometimes when you leave that gray area in the middle, a lot of teams take advantage of that in a really, really big way, and that's when you find yourself in trouble. So I do think that there is a strategy behind pacing themselves in that second and that third quarter to keep their energy up, keep their bodies strong and healthy, knowing how close the playoffs are. Starting off strong, finishing strong, arguably the 2 most important quarters are the first and the fourth, but you can't give too much wiggle room to your opponents in the second and third quarter because they will take advantage of it, and we've seen a lot of teams do that, and that's when this Nuggets team loses games that they have no business losing. So I get it. I understand the strategy behind pacing themselves, but at this point in time, what I do need is continuity and consistency. Those are the 2 things right now that I really need to see by this Denver Nuggets team. Continuity in that starting 5 that is finally healthy. We have only seen them, to Coach Malone's point, what he just said, we've only seen this starting 5 that we saw tonight playing together 21 times this season. That just shows you how many injuries they've had to deal with all season and how few times we have seen this starting 5 play together. So continuity in the starting 5 is very important in these last 8 games ahead of the playoffs, and also the consistency needed by this Denver Nuggets team to continue building on those good habits and not letting themselves fall too far back. We take 5 steps forward, we take 10 back. That's how this whole season has felt. And it's hard because the 5 steps you take forward are really big steps. They're huge. You've got the best player in the world. You've got CB, who's been excellent, one of the best in transition. This Nuggets team knows how to score in the paint. They have mastered their offensive game. The game that they know how to play, they have mastered it. Defense has been up and down, and in every way, the most probably inconsistent and frustrating part or aspect of this Denver Nuggets team. But so much of that we know with defense is effort and communication. The communication can't happen without continuity in the starting 5. So that is why those are the 2 things I would love to see ahead of the playoffs, is just really establishing the chemistry of the guys that are healthy and available to you, and then also keeping it consistent with all the good habits that have been formed by this Nuggets team. Noah, I want to bring up your comment because I absolutely agree. Jamal has played great without Jokic recently. There's a lot of hate comments in the chat right now about Jamal Murray. And while earlier in the season, I may have been like, yeah, I'm frustrated with him too. Right now, I'm just not. I've really loved what we've seen from Jamal Murray, especially in the month of March. I've been very, very pleased with Jamal Murray's performances, especially without Nikola Jokic. I do feel like he has stepped up. He's rose to the occasion, rose. He rose to the occasion without Nikola Jokic and really played like a leader and really kind of, showed us why he gets paid the money that he gets paid over the last few weeks. So I want to see that continue, of course. And again, I don't think it's a coincidence that he fires it up a little bit more intensely and plays a little bit better in the playoffs. So I think he's starting to gear himself into that mindset, into that mentality of it's game time. And we're about to see him be very, very clutch in the playoffs, we hope. But I'm not really upset with Jamal Murray. There's some comments in here about Jamal, and I don't think they're correct right now. I can understand the frustration of his inconsistencies earlier in the season. Of course, you guys know I was probably the most honest Nuggets reporter when it came to Jamal Murray earlier in the season. And it was tough because I love Jamal Murray. I've been a Denver Nuggets fan my entire life. I have nothing but respect for him, but I was frustrated, as I think many Nuggets fans were. And something about my shows and my content is I like to just keep it honest. There was no point in me getting on the mic and pretending like I wasn't bothered by Jamal Murray's playing earlier in the season. I was very bothered by it. You guys knew that. I made that very clear. So to see him kind of getting back to the version of him that I knew he always could be. That is where my frustrations with Jamal earlier in the season stemmed from, was I know he can be better than what we're seeing. That was why I was frustrated. Like, I know you're better than this. So I really, really think it's important that we hold our favorite players to a standard of like, hey, be better. So much of what we saw from Jamal earlier in the year was just a lack of effort. He looked checked out. He looked disengaged, and that's a choice. You choose to be that way, right? You don't choose to miss your threes, but you did choose to show up and give less effort than I know you can give. That was the choice, and that's why I became frustrated. So this comment says, I literally stopped watching other podcasts because they babysit too much. Listen, I'm not for everybody. My honesty is not for everybody. Some people do not like it. Some people feel like I'm too hard on my teams. I can totally understand that. But something that I have always wanted these post-game lives to feel like is just a big, giant therapy session. We are all in this together. If you're a Nuggets fan, or if you're just simply a basketball fan and you're watching the MVP race unfold and you're watching the Western Conference standings change every day, I think it's very important to keep it very honest. There's no sense in me getting on here and pretending like a loss against the Wizards doesn't piss me off. It freaking pisses me off. It's that simple. I mean, hello? Does it not piss you off? I'm pretty sure it pisses everybody off. So even the other podcasters that don't talk about it in the same tone of voice, I know for a fact they're not happy when the Denver Nuggets lose against the Washington Wizards. So around here, when it comes to my content, we're always going to keep it real and keep it honest. But of course, it's very important for me to also have people that keep me level-headed and remind me, Liv, it's a very long season. Jamal will find his footing following the All-Star break. He's going to start to turn things up a little bit, and that's exactly what he's done. I have a lot of people in the chat that are constantly reminding me of that. I have my fiance that reminds me of that. I have my mom, who is a diehard Nuggets fan. Every time I call her and I'm like, oh my God, they're horrible. She's like, you are mean, and I'm hanging up. Don't talk about my team like that. So I do have people that keep me very level-headed, one of which is the one and the only Brandon Christall. You guys know him. You guys love him. And actually, he is going to join me right now from Ball Arena. BK, a big win tonight. I saw that you bumped into our pal Shelby Harris at the game. He was sitting courtside supporting his Bucks. I'm sure he was not thrilled in the way that game ended, but I know I was. What was your take on the game and how it all unfolded?
Yeah, I was actually able, Liv, to sit and watch the whole fourth quarter with Shelby and his wife, Steph. And so we were just kind of talking through the game. And you do have to give the Bucks credit for hanging in there. We already knew they weren't going to have Dame, and then to not have Giannis, that's one that did help my fantasy team. So I was happy with that. And Brook Lopez had a monster game. But as you're watching it, it's like, okay. And, the game in the third quarter, they're up 86-83. And it's like, okay, are the Bucks going to have enough in the tank? And there was no way they were going to, especially with Joker back. And with Michael Malone joking that I should give him 10 days off more often now than qualifying and saying I didn't give him 10 days off. He was clearly banged up and needed the rest, but you saw that dunk he had in the first half. You just knew with Joker out there, with Jamal, with this team healthy, even though AG had to sit early because of the foul trouble. And Michael Malone kept harping on that in postgame. It's only the 21st time that his penciled in starters have played. Yep. And so we talked to coach. It's going to maybe be a minute. There's a chance MPJ comes out while you and I are talking. It's very unlikely that Joker will come out anywhere near before the hour or so that he always talks to us post game. But knowing that they've got 8 games left to get comfortable with each other again and get that chemistry back and just understand where they need to be and where they need to be heading into the playoffs, I think it can only be a good thing. But you were tested maybe more than needed to. That could happen Friday, although we know Utah wants to keep losing to have a shot at Cooper Flag. And so I think that ultimately you're happy that you're going to hopefully be able to string a couple of wins together, especially after the tough one Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking before you hopped on and joined us and said that I felt like their best offensive quarter was the first and their best defensive quarter was the fourth. We had that second and third quarter where you could visibly see them take their foot off of the gas. I know we've talked many times this season about whether or not that is strategic or whether or not that is just their playing style. Either way, it definitely can be frustrating. Their defense has been the largest concern for Nuggets fans everywhere. As we get closer to the playoffs, do you feel like the defense that we know they can play is enough to help them make a deep playoff run?
I think it is if they play it consistently and don't wait to pick and choose, wait until the fourth quarter. And the fourth quarter was great. That was something obviously Michael Malone talked about in his post-game comments. And I didn't get a chance to ask him just because you know how the nature of that goes, even after a win and knowing that they're at home and have a day off and all that. You're not going to have him out there for more than about 7 minutes. And it was crowded in there. That was as busy a regular season game as we've had in a few weeks, and one of the busier ones of the entire year. Mostly because I think people thought Giannis and we knew Dame wasn't going to play, but when you're planning to go cover it. So it was crowded in there. And I just wanted to ask, and if I get a chance to talk to any players when I go back down, or obviously talk to Joker, because they've shown what they can do defensively a lot in the second half, certainly on average, much better than their first half, and showed it tonight in the fourth quarter. Is that encouraging or less discouraging? Those sound like the same words essentially, but less discouraging and encouraging are kind of two different things. Like, are you discouraged or are you encouraged that you have that ability? And then why can't you just consistently show that? But we know that in the playoffs, it's a different beast. So you can't pick and choose when to turn that on.
Absolutely. You talk about the consistency, and I've had a lot of people in the chat tonight that have expressed that is a frustrating aspect of this Denver Nuggets team. I think I share that frustration with them. Talk to me a little bit about Michael Porter Jr. and what you saw from him in the first quarter, because I liked what we saw from him in the first quarter. Felt like he was playing confident basketball. What makes this quarter different than all the other frustrating quarters that we felt like we haven't had Michael Porter Jr.? Because I think many people would argue and can argue that he's always been this player. I was talking to them tonight about the fact that his stat line of 23, 10, and whatever should be the norm when you're looking at the guy that's his level of talent and his size and what he brings to the table. That should be the norm. So why can't we get this from MPJ on a more regular basis? Because it really is super, super valuable when we do get this version of him.
I don't want to simplify it and say, well, when they're fully healthy, that just takes pressure off. But in some ways, that is sometimes the obvious answer is the right one. The most easy solution is the one that's right in front of you. And by having AG back, and I know he obviously had to sit early with those fouls, but he was out there, and knowing you're at full strength with your starters. So if you're MPJ, you're not having to make up for what Joker might be doing when he misses those games, or no Jamal tonight, or certainly no AG throughout most of the season. And so I don't want to say that it's mentally taxing on him, but he can play more freely, I guess, if he knows that he's at most the third option and sometimes fourth or fifth with how CB and AG can play on a given night. And that's easier to, I guess, just manage for him, if you will.
For sure.
And so he wouldn't tell you that. There's no way that you're going to get that from him. But sometimes it's the unconscious or subconscious things that if you ask his coaches, ask the front office, ask the people that are closest to him, that there's nothing else that he has to worry about when he's out there. You know, we know he had all the off-court stuff in recent years, and thankfully there's not extra stuff there right now to add to this. But just, hey, you can play your game. Joker's going to get his. Jamal is certainly turning into the late season playoff form that we're used to seeing. AG is getting back healthy, and Christian Brown has taken the step you need. And then you got Russ coming off the bench and the other bench players, Peyton Watson. Yeah. And you hope that Julian Strawther is going to be close too, because that will add that extra piece. And you're going to need that scoring off the bench. You know, you're getting from DJ. Jalen Pickett's grown into a bigger role. You know, Chanchar, Najee, you can get contributions from them. But that MPJ doesn't have to do anything beyond what comes easiest to him, and whether that's getting up open threes, which you know he's gonna have plenty of them, and or attacking the glass, getting easy putbacks, whatever it may be. But if you can get 23 and 10 from him most nights in the playoffs, you're gonna win a lot of games. And you do bring up a great point that it's, again, something Coach Malone harped on. We actually got to hear a clip from Coach Malone, and you're saying that he talked about it more than once, about the fact that we've only seen this starting lineup 21 times this season. It's crazy when you say that out loud. So there probably have been a lot of games where MPJ, who has been relatively, actually, he probably has been, outside of CB, the most healthy starting, member of this starting five lineup. So there probably have been a lot of games where he's had to wear different hats, and some that he's maybe not comfortable wearing all the time. And so it's a great point, and it's a very a good thing to keep reminding myself, is that the continuity of this starting five is still fresh. A lot of teams have already established it at this point in the season, but it is still very fresh for this team. Something that I got to say, 11 days since we've watched Nikola Jokic play basketball. And did he or did he not have the assist of the year, BK? I watched the slow-mo. I watched every angle. What did that play look like in person? And does it just solidify the fact that Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world? I don't know if one play does that, because he has so many plays.
Does, BK. Come on.
Well, if that's the case, we could look at some of the biggest plays ever and say, wait, but
true.
The point being, it's just a reminder. And I think you do have to look at the totality of the game, and 39, 10, and 10. Although talking with some people with the team coming off the court, that last assist to Jamal, the stat folks might have been a little generous, because he passes out to him at the top of the arc. Jamal takes a handful of dribbles to get to the basket. It wasn't your typical NBA one dribble, 5 steps, no travel. It was 3, 4, 5 dribbles, and then nice up and under bucket right in front of where Shelby and I were sitting. So did he really have the triple double? See if that gets adjusted. They don't adjust stats the way they do in the NFL, but I think you're just reminded, and this was also something that Michael Malone talked about, when you see Jamal and Joker in the 2-man game specifically, that he's the best player in the world. And so when you have plays like that, that are going to be the number one play on SportsCenter's top 10, and going to be probably the most viewed NBA tweet when, from the league account tonight, if not the whole week, that, this guy is truly special. SGA, we understand, especially with Joker missing these games late, is likely going to be voted MVP, but that really doesn't matter, certainly to Nikola more than anyone. But that he is just playing on a different level. I don't know how much you caught of LeBron with Pat McAfee, because he obviously hung out with him for a long time. I think they taped it yesterday and then ran it today. Yep. And LeBron talked about the way he sees the game and thinks about the game, and didn't talk about Joker, but it goes back to what you and I were saying, because LeBron's like, my athleticism has dropped a notch. He wasn't gonna concede too much, because when you watch him play, and you saw the tip in,
the notch is very small.
It's a small notch. Most people's athleticism, it's more noticeable, but that just lets you know what a freak he is. But he thinks the game, and that's kind of the whole thing with the podcast. You have JJ Redick. He now has Steve Nash coming in. Jamal, although he loves LeBron, I don't think Joker, even though he loves LeBron, I don't think he would ever commit to doing a multi-episode podcast. Doesn't mean he won't come on it at some point, but clearly he sees and thinks the game on a plane that very few players ever have been on. And so when you see the way Magic talks about him, Bill Simmons, who's as good a historian, was on Dan Patrick, I believe yesterday, and said that he puts him up there with Magic and Bird as the two guys that have seen the game better than anyone ever, including LeBron, including Steve Nash and John Stockton. And so, when he makes plays like that, you're just reminded of truly how great he is, especially when it's like, oh, first game back after 10 days. Like you never missed a moment of action.
Right. Yeah, that really was how it felt. And it did feel like he had some energy about him. He looked like he was relatively healthy. Of course, you want to just keep your eyes on that as a coaching staff, just to make sure that that guy, of all guys out there, I mean, they're all important in their own way, but Jokic especially, you want to make sure has a healthy body as we enter the playoffs. Final few things for you here, BK. Christian Brown, I mean, just special. You're Kansas Jayhawk, okay?
Yeah, he's reminding folks what Kansas basketball is supposed to look like.
Right. I was just gonna say, what are they feeding these guys in Kansas? Because he just has that dog mentality, and that's really the best way you can explain the game that he's had all season. But I also don't think enough people are talking about just how consistent he's been in surpassing expectations. I mean, it just feels like, it's not that the bar was set low, but I do think there was a lot of doubt, and maybe not doubt, but just unsure.
Yeah, skepticism or uncertainty. Just we weren't sure what we were going to see, knowing how dependable obviously KCP was, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And apparently he plays more games than anybody. Neither of us, I think, necessarily knew that.
No.
But CB has probably, if we were to go through it, and I'm sure we could pull it up real quick, he probably has the most games played this year for the Nuggets. I would think the most starts, because he's only missed
him and MPJ are probably up there together.
And you know what? I'll look it up just because I can as I'm talking to you. But just another huge game, and it's becoming commonplace to where we should stop marveling at it, if you will. And I don't want to dismiss how good he's been. I'm not trying to say that, but just that we shouldn't be surprised anymore when he's able to do that
all year.
And so as you look at it, and I pull it up, Joker is at 62, Jamal's at 64, MPJ 70, and as I guessed, CB 71 games. So one more. You were spot on.
I knew MPJ was probably close.
Yeah, and then Russ is at 66, Peyton's at 60. And then it goes down from there. AG's only at 43. Strawther, actually, though, also at 61. So he was remarkably healthy. And had he not, gotten banged up, he probably would have been right there. But knowing that these guys are going to play for CB 79 games potentially, that should be a feather in his cap. And for MPJ, he's going to get to 78 if they don't sit him. Now, there is a scenario where they get locked into a spot, and we know it's not necessarily going to happen, but we'll see. They're going to hopefully get a win against a Jazz team that's trying to lose this week, but that we end up seeing them sit a game late because they're locked in, although it is the Rockets at the very end of the year and you're kind of battling with them. So, but CB specifically, it's kind of like any rookie. And I know I'm saying like a rookie that plays a lot, and I think Bo Nix pops into my head. Bo Nix, by the end of the year, didn't look like a rookie. Jaden Daniels didn't look like a rookie. These rookies that play, Wemby by the end of the year last year. And so he's in year 3, but we shouldn't be surprised that he's turning in 19 and 10 and is, his plus minus is plus 13, and he's always going to play good defense. And it goes back to what Coach was saying about AG, because with AG healthy, that's less pressure on CB on the perimeter, because AG can do so much more defensively. And with Peyton Watson back healthy now. So I think that you just have to be, as much flack as Calvin Booth has taken, and we understand why at times, you've got to give he and his front office staff and Josh Kroenke and certainly Michael Malone and his staff credit that they believed in Christian Brown and that he's delivered on that belief in him.
Absolutely. Yeah, overall felt like a good team win. Of course, you'd like to see them just blow a team like this out of the water, given no Giannis and Dame. But we also know there is still a lot of talent on this Bucks team.
And a lot of really good three-point shooting. And also, right, when you look at it, and you probably don't want to give up 16 threes, but the Nuggets, we talk about that number, they made 16 of their own. And so that puts them, at an even better clip now, over 15 threes made. But their offense operates differently because it doesn't have to go through Giannis.
Right.
And so there's less reliance, and Giannis is a different player than Joker. So the Bucks, if they can figure out how to blend their really good 3-point shooting with Giannis dominating the ball, and if Dame's back healthy, I still don't understand why Kyle Kuzma's there. He had 10 points tonight.
Okay,
I understand why you traded Chris Middleton. I just don't know why you traded him for Kyle Kuzma.
Can I just say, I actually completely forgot that Kyle Kuzma played for this
Of
team.
course.
And as
That's
I
the point.
started watching, I was like, they're like, Kyle Kuzma with a rebound. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I remember this trade, of course, but I'm sitting there watching this game going, it just doesn't look right. It's just some trades just don't look right. And that is kind of how I feel about Kyle Kuzma on the Bucks. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
I don't know why they made that move. I understand wanting to move off Chris Middleton, but
of course,
for Kyle Kuzma seems odd.
Last thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and then I'll let you go, BK. The Nuggets had quite a few opportunities at the line tonight. Felt like free throws are just not as easy as they normally are for this Nuggets team. I mean, they were still 59% from the free throw line, but that's kind
No,
of
still that's not a number. If you're not north of
ridiculous.
75 or 80%, and really an NBA coach is going to want you to be at 80%.
I mean, come on. Those are free points.
They're free. And it's one thing if it's DeAndre Jordan and Russ shooting the whole time, but it's not. And so if you're missing free throws, and I understand Joker just working back into form, and I guess Russ was 1 for 4, but yeah, you can't shoot 59%. You can't even shoot 69%. You need to be north of 75%, especially in the playoffs when every single point is going to matter.
Yep. So right now, I think we're just entering the time where with this Nuggets team, we've got to see them refining these little things and doing it on a consistent basis. And I think they've got a different array of talent levels that they're going to face in these last 8 games between.
But all teams in the playoffs minus the Jazz.
Yeah. So, you're going to get a little bit of everything. And I think it's important that they, take advantage of the things they do well, refine the things that they don't do so well, and just keeping it as consistent as humanly possible is hopefully the goal.
Yeah, and this is where you are going to rely on their veteran presence, their experience, the fact that they have been there. And this might be new to Russ here, but Russ has certainly been on playoff teams throughout the majority of his career. And DeAndre Jordan, you're going to rely on him more. And then even though they're younger, all Julian Strawther and certainly Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, all they know are playoffs and, at least a run to the second round for those, first couple guys I mentioned, and then Strawther, second round, but finals and everything that comes along with that. And so if they can give you this starting lineup for these final 8 games, if guys sit for rest, that's one thing. But if they're healthy and play the majority 6 of these 8 games with this group, I don't know if anybody sits on Friday, but it wouldn't blow my mind if somebody did at the same time.
Yeah.
At the same time, you do want to, against a team is not trying to win games and is going to sit their best players in the fourth quarter, you may want to play these guys so that they play together more.
Yeah.
And so I'm not expecting that he's going to sit anybody right now. You're only a game up on the Lakers. And so you're right there with the Rockets as well, but you don't want to drop because you don't want to deal with OKC in the second round. So I think that it might get interesting that final week, but right now I think he wants to see, can I get from 21 to 29 games with the same starting group so they're ready to go, clicking on all cylinders in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I think you'll take the 8 games if you can get them because the continuity is going to matter come playoff time. So, BK, we'll let you go. We know that you've got a big job going and talking to the rest of the players. I know it might be a little while before you talk to Jokic, but nonetheless, we'll let you go so you can get in there and get some of your questions answered. And thanks for joining me, and we'll chat with you very, very soon.
Okay. Thanks, Liv.
Bye, BK. All right, you guys, always great talking to my friend Brandon Christall. You guys know him. You love him. He's the best. He's the best. We are going to keep chatting a little bit, and we may have a couple clips or maybe a clip of some players chatting. Of course, we're kind of waiting for them to get freshened up and changed and all those sorts of things. So maybe a second, but we will certainly feed those to you guys as we get them. For now, we'll just chat a little bit longer, and I won't keep you guys too late. I know. Actually, I will tell you, I was just in Cleveland for March Madness games, and I do not know how you Eastern time zone people do it when it comes to sports. We went to a game that started at 10 p.m. I was like, no, I'm sorry. This is crazy. I don't know how you guys do it. I have nothing but respect for my Eastern time zone people. If you are on the Eastern time zone tuning in to this post-game live reaction show, thank you. I appreciate you. I always appreciate you. Anyone tuning in, I appreciate you. But those Eastern time zone people, I got a lot of respect for you because it is late where you're at. It's late where I'm at, but it's certainly late where you're at. I've been trying to read through some of these comments just to go ahead and get you guys popped up on the screen if there's some good ones. Lots of Jamal slander in the chat. I just don't agree with that right now. I don't agree with that. Earlier in the season, I probably agreed with it a little more. Right now, I don't. The Nuggets probably don't have enough defense to make it to the conference finals this year, but the bench is an even bigger issue. Interesting, Noah. Yeah, I mean, of course, the bench. I mean, when you look at teams like the Celtics, the bench that they've got, they can produce. I mean, any given moment, they look like the clutchest players in the NBA. There's a lot of teams out there that have benches that are far deeper than the Denver Nuggets and far more reliable. But I do like what our bench has to offer. I do think in the playoffs, you've got Russ that brings that energy. If we can continue this, what we saw tonight with Russ, where he's not turning the ball over and he's helping facilitate with that second unit, I like that. The defensive upside of Peyton Watson, I think he had 12 points, but he also had 3 blocks tonight. We know what he can do from a defensive perspective. Of course, losing Julian Strother to a knee injury, not ideal because he did add some depth to this bench. But listen, you've got guys like Jalen Pickett who really can turn it up from the three-point line at any given moment. So I'm not feeling super, super defeated when it comes to the bench and the depth of this team. I'm really, really not. That is not a massive, massive concern of mine. The defense, however, yes. I'm with you there. I do think our defense could and probably will be what stands in this Nuggets team's way of making a super deep run and potentially making it to the finals. Pickett is good, but unproven. Yeah, but you know what? That's not his fault. You know, I think that in the times where he has been able to play, because of injured players, he has risen to the occasion in that way. From a perspective of playoffs, yes, very unproven. And we know that playoffs are a different beast. So I can understand your reservations there. That being said, like I said, when he has had the opportunity to play, I've seen a lot of things that I've liked out of Jalen Pickett. So I'm not too down on him right now. I feel like there is a lot of potential there for him to be really great and really clutch for this Nuggets team. So I'm hoping that is what we get. Okay. Yeah, you guys, I mean, we are, I am going to just take a little second and just check in with the team and see if we've got any of those clips coming in. And if not, we'll go ahead and get on out of here. We will get you guys out of here. I know it's a late night. The Nuggets got a win. It was a good team win by this Nuggets team. Like I said, first quarter, best offensive quarter for them. Fourth quarter, best defensive quarter. We know this Nuggets team can play defense. We know that. We've seen it in little moments. We've seen them do it, but we're not seeing it nearly consistently enough in order to feel super confident in what they can do defensively. That being said, we know it's there. We know they have the talent and the skill set to do it. They just have to now show us in these 8 games the continuity of this starting 5, because we've only seen this starting 5 together 21 times this season. And then also the consistency on not just, I'm not even really worried about their offense. So I would say their consistency defensively. So continuity in this starting 5 and consistency defensively in these last 8 games. That is what we hope we see. But you also look ahead to Friday's game and understand that it is against the Utah Jazz. That isn't a team that you worry about a ton. And you do want to make sure that their bodies are healthy. So don't be surprised if you see that we're not playing all of our starters on Friday. I would say that that is a safe assumption to make at this point. But there's also the business decision of, hey, 21 times is all we've seen this starting 5 play together. So we kind of need to see them play a little bit more. So we're going to take advantage of every single game that remains in order to build up that continuity that we know will be very valuable to them in the playoffs. So, okay. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to let you go. You know, it's sometimes when it comes to these players, we got to wait for them, get them in the post-game presser. It can take a little while, so we'll let you guys go. But the great news is you have access to all of the post-game presser interviews live on the Gorilla Sports YouTube. As soon as they're done, they're up on the YouTube, so you guys can hear from players like MPJ, players like Jokic, about how they feel about tonight's win against the Milwaukee Bucks. So just keep that in mind. If you want to see those, we'll have them on socials as well as on our YouTube, so you can check them out there. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube. Make sure you're following us on all things socials. I'm Liv Moods. This has been another post-game live reaction show following a win over the Milwaukee Bucks, and this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American's salary-based mortgage consultants are literally designed to help you save money, getting you better interest rates, lowering your monthly payments. Shout out to our friends at Trusted American. You can see how they can help you by heading to trustedamerican.com. I'm Liv Moods, signing off for the night. Go Denver Nuggets. We will be live again following Friday night's game against the Utah Jazz and probably all of the games that remain. I will be live with you to break them down and talk about where the Denver Nuggets stand as the playoffs are in sniffing distance. So thank you guys tons for being here. Much love to you. And we will see you tomorrow for an off-court episode, 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time, and then again Friday night following the game against the Utah Jazz. Thank you guys for being here. Much love, and we'll see you very soon.